Behold, I am Kronos, the god of time.
Who?
We God have aided heroes since the beginning of man. Now I have come to you in your hour of need.
What's going on?
Behold, the power of the gods.
It's a bat.
Not just any bat. With this, you have the power to begin anew, to rectify any would-be mistakes.
Wait, so I can go back in time and save JFK? Or stop him from making that stupid Max Payne movie?
What? No. It only works for video games.
Oh, okay. I guess that's cool too.
Now, go forth and change the world.
Okay, I think I'm the perfect first one. Hey, Prince of Persia, I'm coming for you, you bastard. Hello and welcome back to Gamebox, the show where we take a look at games of yesteryear. And today, we'll be taking a look at a game from the PlayStation 3 era. A game that was meant to breathe new life into a series that had a pretty decent bookend game. A game that tried to do some new things while trying to go back to the basics. A little game called Prince of Persia, 2008. So yeah, another thing. This is one of the cases where the reboot is given the same name as the original game it's based on. Like Doom or Tomb Raider. So it's pretty confusing to talk about. Oh wait, before we begin, remember when I said this? Man, it'd be cool to see a full remake of this game. Hint, hint. Well, the entire original game by Jordan Mechner was remade using character models from the Sands of Time trilogy, with snappier controls and an updated look. But even with the updates, it was still a tough and awesome game. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to it. Okay, imagine, it's 2006, and it's been a year since the Sands of Time trilogy has ended, and you're sitting there with no plans for the future. While wallowing in the uncertainty that is life, you see something that catches your attention from the crushing disappointment you have become in the eyes of your friends and family. A new Prince of Persia game? Could it be? So you click on the link and get greeted with this. I'm kidding, but you were greeted with this. God damn it, get out of here! Okay, alright, you were greeted with this. But that's not the prince. That's not Farah. Is this a reboot? Yes indeed, the Prince of Persia series has been fated to the dreaded reboot. In 2006, a leak was sprung and gave the fans a sneak peek at Ubisoft's new project. Another leak would occur in early 2008, but it wouldn't be until later that year that Ubisoft would go full hog and reveal their new Prince of Persia game, with the trailer that showcased the new characters and art style. And it was definitely something new. This new project would focus on combat, platforming, and puzzle solving. One of the major changes was a shift from group fights, that was present in the previous titles, to one-on-one fights. This was done to harken back to the original games. This new game also had no narrative ties to the previous titles, so it meant it was a clean slate. They even changed out the voice actors, swapping out Yuri Lowenthal and Helen King for Kerry Walgren and Nolan North. You know Mr. North. He's been in a few projects.
You say the other night at the bar that you could keep up with me?
You were hitting on me. I'd have said anything.
Look around you. This horrible bunch of psychopaths are all begging to join up with me.
Just to name some of them. Prince of Persia was released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in North America on December 5th, 2008, Australia December 11th, 2008, and in Europe December 12th, 2008, and on Mac worldwide on March 24th, 2009. There was also a spin-off for the Nintendo DS titled Prince of Persia: The Fallen King, released in North America on December 2nd, 2008, and in Europe December 5th, 2008. Reception for the console versions were good, gaining 8 and 9s, not too shabby. The DS version, not so much. And with that, let's take a look at today's game.
At the mercy of the storm that engulfs it. What is one?
Set in a nondescript country, a prince, in name only, stumbles upon a plot involving an ancient god trying to escape its prison. With no other choice, the prince decides to help a magically imbued princess named Elika in order to re-imprison the god and prevent the world from falling into darkness. Prince of Persia's third-person action-adventure game. As stated before, this new installment had a focus on one-on-one combat. This new change was a bit of a make or break for some fans, but the prince not only can whack his enemies with his sword, he has other tools in his repertoire. He can use his gauntlet to toss baddies into the air and vault over enemies to get a better position in battle, which is very useful for some enemy encounters. He can even utilize Alaka herself to attack enemies. Each of these attacks can be linked together in order to deal out maximum damage. Later in the game, enemies will go into states that will require a specific attack to snap them out of it. And if you happen to forget which attack to use, don't worry, the game will let you know, which was one of my gripes with this new iteration. It coddled the players a bit too much. There's no real death in this game. If the prince finds himself in a near death or death adjacent situation, Alaka will swoop in and save the prince from any would-be fall or sword swing to the face, which isn't a completely bad thing, it just takes away some of the consequences of the player's mistakes. But on the other hand, whenever Alaka does have to save the prince, the attacking enemy does regain a bit of health. So that's a thing. Another interesting thing about combat is that if the player notices an enemy trying to spawn in and they move fast enough, they're able to snuff them out and avoid combat altogether. The platforming this time around feels weightier, much like the original game. I did take note that the prince did get into a bit of a soft lock when a string of parkour maneuvers were put together. There are extra powers the duo can use to aid with the platforming and gaining access to new areas. There's the Wing of Ormaz, which allows the prince and Alaka to fly over great distances. I wasn't a fan of this one, as it was just flying on rails. There's the Step of Ormaz, which lets Alaka fling the prince across gaps. There's the Breath of Ormaz. This lets the prince run along walls. And finally, there's the Hand of Ormaz, which lets Alaka swing the prince across gaps. To be honest, they all function the same. I personally like the Breath of Ormaz over the rest. In order to use these powers, the prince needs Alaka present and use the power plates, which isn't too hard to do since she's stuck on you like Matt Damon. Get it? Cause he was in a movie called Stuck on You with Greg Kinnear. Yeah? No? Pfft, uncultured swine. The level structure took the scrapped idea from Kindred Blades and went with the more open world approach, opposed to the traditional linear format. This gives the player the freedom to tackle the different objectives in any order they wish. And what is the main goal for the prince and associates? They need to head to a new area, fight a boss, and rejuvenate the fertile grounds. Doing this spawns light seeds in the area for collecting. What are light seeds, I hear you ask? Well, that is what allows Alaka to unlock new abilities, which in turn unlocks access to new fertile grounds and more boss fights, which in turn spawns more light seeds for the prince to collect, which in turn unlocks, you get the point. It does tend to get a wee bit tedious. In the previous games, it was more like, go here, go there, pick that up, game's done. But here, it's more like, go here, go there, wait, you can't go there without 100 light seeds. Okay, you got them? Good, now go here. Wait, you need 200 more light seeds. What the f? But on the flip side, the trek to go from point A to point B was pretty fun with the platforming system in this game. I felt the same way about Night Monkey for the PlayStation 4, where the player had to travel great distances, but the method of travel was just so much fun to use. Now for the bosses. They were okay. There were 4 main bosses: the Hunter, the Alchemist, the Concubine, and the Warrior. Each fight plays out the same way. The only one offering something different was a fight with the Warrior, which had the player fight to push him off a platform. But beyond that, each encounter was very rinse and repeat. This is where I feel Prince of Persia shines and comes into its own. This version goes with a cel-shaded look, much like Killer 7, 13, or No More Heroes. This lets the colors pop. The environments benefit from this as well, having just as much color. To be honest, I really dug this art style. Overall, the game ran fine. The music was cool as well, having that familiar Middle Eastern twang. And it also worked for the overall feel of the game.
Want to win your daughter back? You could try just giving her a pony. The apocalypse doesn't really cut it.
So, all in all, is this a game you need to go out and play? I'm going to give a yes. Sure, it's not the continuation that some may have wanted, but it does function on its own 2 legs. It was slightly strange to hear Nolan North's voice coming out of the prince, but after the initial shock, he did give his usual snarkiness flavor to the character.
Hey, I'm a legend. I'll live forever anyway. Wow, that sounded better in my head than out loud.
Carrie Walgren did great as well, making Alaka very likable.
Trap?
Yes, he's a hunter, remember? I think we can get down that wall there.
And they had great chemistry together, but in the end it grew on me. It did get a bit tedious with its overall structure, but if you can get through that, then I say give it a try. Now, I do need to bring up the Epilogue DLC that was released for the console versions of this game. As the name would suggest, it was meant to wrap up the loose ends that the original ending had left hanging, even boasting an addition of new enemies and powers for Elika, but ultimately it doesn't really do either. The new enemies being a hodgepodge of enemy encounters from the original game, and the new power was slightly different, this one letting Elika summon pieces of the environment for the Prince to platform off of. Even the DLC's conclusion ended with a cliffhanger itself. I can honestly say you can probably skip this one. And sadly, given the fans' reaction to this iteration of the Prince, I highly doubt this series is going to have that resurgence that Ubisoft was hoping for. On a side note, apparently the DS game does take place after the console game, so I'll be most likely picking that up in the future. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a boss to fight.
I hope that hurt!
He can't hear you.
Can't? And you're an ugly mother too! What?
Hey, welcome to the end of the video. I thank you for making it this far. We have one more game to take a look at before we're done with the Prince of Persia games, and that game is Ubisoft's last attempt to regain attention for the Prince of Persia series. But until then, you know what to do. Spirit the awesome, and I will see you next time.